Planning Commission, not the applicant or the audience, and are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. The use of any abusive or profane language shall not be allowed. No debate or argument between speakers shall be permitted. After all public comments have been heard, the Planning Commission may elect to hold general discussion. The Planning Commission will vote upon a recommendation that will continue forward to either the City of Conyers City Council or the Rockdale County Board of Commissioners public hearings.
That's it, but I want to make sure.
Director, you're breaking up. Are you?
That concludes the procedures for public comment.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, old business, new business. City of Conyers, preliminary plat for Miller's Point. The purpose is a single-family detached residential subdivision, 33.53 acres. Number of lots is 94. Location 2450 and 822 Lenox Drive. Owner, Lanier, Georgia. Agent, Brian McCraney.
Thank you, Chairman. This is Scott Gaither with the City of Conyers. If I may, Rockdale County, may I share my screen as I've got the presentation here?
Yes.
Okay, while we get that set up, Mr. Chairman, this is a request for a preliminary plat. The applicant is Brian McCraney at Planners and Engineers Collaborative. Mr. McCraney is online tonight. It is located at 2450 and 822 Lenox Drive. It is a total of the request or the preliminary plat will create 94 single-family detached lots on 33.53 total acres. Is a 27.49 net acres. Total density is 3.42 units per net acre proposed. 34.38% open space provided. Minimum lot area 6,000 square feet. Minimum lot width of 55 feet. The front yard setback is 20 feet. Rear yard setback is 35 feet. Side yard setback is 25 feet. These are on perimeter lots of the subdivision. Interior lots, front setbacks 20 feet. Side yard, interior setback 7.5. Side yard corner lots of 15 feet setback. And the rear yard setback of 25 feet. And if I'm able to share my screen, I'll be happy to show a proposed layout of the subdivision in question. This is go through the review process with the City of Conyers and through Rockdale Water Resources and Rockdale Fire Marshal's Office. And all reviewing agencies did approve this preliminary layout and lot yield.
Mr. Gaither, you should be able to share your screen at any time.
That is easy for you to say, sir. Don, would you care to point me in that right direction, please, sir?
If you, on the bottom of your screen, do you see share screen?
I do now. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And then you need to pick one of the screens.
Yep, got it. Thanks for the reminder.
You're welcome.
So there is the preliminary plat. You all see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is, this where my cursor is Lenox. This would be Georgia 20 coming in. This is the lake that's on the property. These estate lots are large lots along Lenox, and you don't get into the smaller lot sizes until you get up well into the property and backs up to Weatherstone and backs up to what is now Alder Park, what was known as Vaughn's Farm in this area. And they will construct a road that goes all the way out to Old Miller Chapel Road, right there near the intersection of Old Miller Chapel and Miller Chapel. If there's any questions that the Planning Commission has, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
I have a question, Scott. What's the price point for these homes?
I have no idea, ma'am. That's that price point is set by the end builder when they build the houses. The builder of this project and developer of the project is Lennar, Georgia, and Lennar, Georgia builds specific home types. I believe they'll probably be compatible with what will be built at Oliver Park. But Mr. McCraney is the project engineer for this site. His clients are Lennar, and he may be able to give you a better idea of price points. Now, I know just with home prices and the cost of material that is increasing, we are seeing home prices in the neighborhood of about $160 to $180 a square foot. So you're going to have a minimum house size of about 2,500 square foot here, on up to probably 3,000 square foot is what I would guess on the 6,000 square foot lot. So that kind of gives you your base price.
Okay, and is that comparable to the other neighborhoods that are around that area?
If you go down Lenox and take a left at the road instead of turn right to go into the site, Lenox has some large lots and large estate lots, large homes. But as you go in the back behind that portion of Lenox, the new homes would be compatible with those homes that are existing to the left, but certainly not compatible with those larger homes. Those I don't know, 10 to 12 homes that are right there along Lenox and into what's known as Nob Hill. Those are I think pretty large custom built structures. But these houses will be more compatible with the houses that are further back and the houses that are probably closer to Weatherstone and what will be built in Alder Park.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir. He is here. Mr. McCraney is on.
Yes, I'm here.
I believe there was a question about the price point of houses.
Yes, sir. So I am in charge of the engineering for the project. And again, our client would dictate the end all price point for this, but they are going to be comparable to Alder next door. I would imagine between starting range between 250 and 300. But again, that's really going to be up to them. I don't know that.
Sure.
I can't comment on that 100%, but based on my experience with this project and what their goal is, it's going to be around there. Now that doesn't hold true again for the state lots that Mr. Gaither pointed out along Lenox there. Obviously, the price point for those will be substantially higher because the intention is there to match what's going on along Lenox.
Right. That brings me to my next question, because the reason I asked that is because the price of materials and supplies have increased substantially, in the last year or two. So you're getting less house for more money. So that's why I asked that. I wanted to know if they were going to be comparable to the homes that are already there.
That's correct. And it fluctuates a lot. And it's really hard to dictate at this point because essentially it's going to be a year and a half on maybe 2 years before they start vertical construction on these. And, depending on what happens with the market, it could fluctuate either way,
Yeah. Okay.
Is there any way to identify on the
And we all
plat?
understand.
Is there any way to identify on the plat where the larger homes are and where they abut the property that'll have the new development?
So none of the new development area here abuts any of the existing larger homes of along Lenox Drive. You have Lenox Drive comes in, and all the homes that are located to the south of Lenox Drive in this area are larger homes. If you come to this intersection and turn left going south, I think you've got 5 maybe on the western side that are large homes before they go into a more modest house size. The estate lots here are intended for larger homes to be somewhat compatible with those that are out on Lennox Drive. But Ms. White, to answer your question, the bulk of the 91 lots here won't abut any of the large existing homes that are along Lennox.
Sitting that ain't on.
Some feedback here from someone. All right. Are there any other questions?
Just for clarity, for a preliminary plat, it is not a zoning action, so it does not require a public hearing. This preliminary plat staff, as I stated, we have reviewed the preliminary plat. It does meet the dimensional standards and zoning standards of this district for the city of Conyers. The fire marshal's office has reviewed it. They have approved it, as has Rockdale Water Resources. So we're asking you tonight to approve the preliminary plat. If it's approved, the next step is Mr. McCraney gets to work on the construction documents. And the construction documents will include how the road is graded, how the stormwater is handled, things of that nature. I imagine they've already begun the preliminary work on that in anticipation of the preliminary plat being approved.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Right, this doesn't, as Ms. Gates said, this does not require a public hearing, so we're now.
Should be showing up on that. And I don't know. Picture not showing up.
Pardon me? Much.
I think someone was
Okay, we're
having.
now, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We're now in discussion and or motion.
I move that the preliminary plat at Miller's Point is approved.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Motion approved by Wendelin, second by Leslie. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Moving on to Rockdale County business. We're now on item R1. It's 1362, 1390, and 0 Rockdale Rockbridge Road. R1A, the future land use amendment case number 2022-01, a request to amend the future land use map from low density residential to light industrial. In R1B rezoning case 2022-01, request to rezone 4 parcels from R1 single family residential and R3 multifamily residential to M1 limited industrial. The size is 47.72 acres. Stonemont Financial Group LLC is the applicant. And this is actually combining, this is 2 public hearings and 2 motions. The public hearings for the future land use plat amendment is 1, and the second one is for the rezoning.
Okay.
County.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members.
Evening.
Yeah, item R1 tonight is rezoning, as you mentioned, 2022-01. It's both a future land use amendment case as well as a rezoning. As you mentioned, 47.7 acres. Stonemont Financial is the applicant, and 2 hearings, 1 tonight, and then there will be a forthcoming zoning hearing, and there will be 1 vote required for each item. In summary of this particular application, they're proposing a warehouse facility along Rockbridge, looking at 499,000 square foot approximately, 250 plus employee parking spaces, 3 access points. 1 will be for employees and 2 for the truck ingress or egress. Next slide shows a preliminary conceptual layout of the facility. The next slide is showing off the Q Public, showing an aerial The red pin indicates where the proposed facility will be in proximity to our 908 Millstead Avenue location. Here's another aerial showing the 4 parcels in question along Rockbridge Road. Next slide is the future land use, and it's showing that currently it's low density residential surrounded by a majority of industrial land uses. Next is showing the R1 zone, again, in the green, and the fuchsia color is showing where it's surrounded by majority of industrial zone currently properties. Notes, this property has been undeveloped for 20+ years. The surrounding industrial land uses make any residential development unlikely. Additionally, this proposal would concentrate industrial zone property with other adjacent industrial zone properties. The conditions would require that any exiting commercial vehicles only leave and head north on Rockbridge. Talking to the applicant, they mentioned that there would be only a right in and left out for this particular proposal. In terms of a recommendation, staff recommends approval with the following conditions. The rezoning site plan prepared by Kimley Horn from last September shall become the guiding layout of the design. The actual location of water quality, street sidewalks, and other amenities will be subject to an actual site condition and the requirements of our code. B, the site shall be developed in compliance with the M1 zoning district if adopted. C, the applicant shall provide a traffic impact study with the preliminary plat. Any recommendations for improvements shall be required to be shown on the land disturbance permit. Additionally, as required by our DOT, a new study may be required. Any recommendations for improvements from any new studies shall be required to be shown on that LDP. As I mentioned earlier, any exiting commercial vehicles have to go north only on Rockbridge to reach Sigmund. And this development shall comply with the parking requirements as seen in section 222-2 of showing 1 parking spot per every 2,000 square foot of gross floor area. That concludes staff's presentation. Now, the applicant has a few slides they would like to show. So if Neil, Catherine, or Randy, one of you are now able to actually give your presentation now.
I think I'll be handling that initially. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. I'm Kathy Zickert with Smith, Camberwell, and Russell, and I represent both Stonemont and Seven Oaks, who are joint partners in this deal. And I do have with me this evening online individuals from both entities. They have successfully worked together on industrial warehousing project pretty all over Georgia, and indeed in many instances throughout the Southeast. So these are 2 quality industrial developers. What you're seeing on your screen right now is an indication of what our facade would look like, as well as with the landscape treatment that would be immediately surrounding the building. Could I have the next slide, please? I have no idea who's controlling this, but it isn't me. This is an indication of where the building would actually physically sit on the site. And if you will notice to the left side of the screen is an office industrial area, which is predominantly the home of, I believe, the Humane Society. There's a fire station there. There is an automobile, some kind of repair service over there. And generally that area is not the most attractive or conducive to residential growth. We've tried to be really, really careful of what we're doing on this site in terms of maintaining separations and distances. So what you are looking at here is an indication of how distant we are towards adjacent or property that is across from Rockbridge Road. And a particular importance is down in the right-hand corner with the area that's circled in red is a 3-acre tract of land, which is heavily, heavily wooded, which we have committed absolutely to maintain. We are also maintaining trees outside of that buffer, but the entire point of that was to try and make sure that we are buffered for our neighbors to the south, who I understand includes Coach Stroud, and we certainly want to make him as happy as we possibly can. It was also at his suggestion that I actually started looking at whether we could restrict traffic movement to this site. He did not want trucks going past his property, which I understand. We have actually already done a traffic study, And the conclusion of it is that there would be no adverse impact on the road system, provided we made sure that the trucks continue north onto Sigmund, which seems to be the most logical way to get back to I-20 anyway. I'll show you a picture in a little bit of what happens if you try to go south, because those railroad grades are so steep that the trucks actually get stuck on them, and they may try it once, but I guarantee you they won't try it a second time. So this is an indication that gives you distances. You can actually look in close there and see where the existing house is, and our building actually will set back from the street pretty much as it does. Can I have the next slide, please? This is an indication of where the site is, and circled around it in yellow are all of the other industrial uses in the area. We're far from the lone industrial use, and also I'm highlighting for you the railroad crossings that are available, but that would be very, very difficult to navigate. This is essentially from this point on to the west, or to the west, a very solidly industrial area. Next slide, please. There I am. That's the truck that tried to make it over one of those railroad crossings a couple of weeks ago and got badly stuck and had to be carted off. I'm sure you all are more familiar with that crossing than I am, but it is extremely steep, both going up and down, and this is what happens. That's a 53-foot standard industrial warehouse type truck. And restricting the right turn south of the site will not only improve the traffic flow to the site, but will avoid this particular circumstance. Next slide, please. This is a larger version of the map that was just shown to you by the director. And I think it's telling. If you can see on the right side, that's the future land use plan. I've got some of y'all's pictures in front of that, which makes it more difficult to see. But as you can look at it, as it is circled in red on the far right on the screen, the entire area which is surrounding it is solidly industrial on this side of Rock Bridge. And that's also true in the zoning map. The reason I understand, and I have actually someone on here who's able to discuss the history of this site, is this was a homestead of someone who lived in this area for quite some time, and it was requested that it remain residential while it was still being occupied, but it has been, in fact, not occupied for quite some time and has been marketed actively for at least the past 15 years. The problem with developing the site residential is that, this won't surprise you, there's a great deal of rock on this property. And although you can easily provide for sewer and water connections to one building on the site, trying to provide the individual connections to a subdivision of 90 some odd houses, which is what would be allowed now, would be physically impossible, or at least so outrageously expensive that it could not be done. So the existing zoning of the site simply is not conducive or at all to how it should and would be developed based on the conditions of the rock that is on the property. Next slide, please. This is another indication of the area that surrounds us, and it shows you the industrial that is directly to our south. Next slide, please. And these are other industrial users in the area. As I said, it's pretty solidly industrial. I actually came in Old Covington Highway at one point to make sure I understood the nature of the approach from that. And it is definitely an industrial area, notwithstanding the railroad crossings, which may or may not be able to be used for these other end users that are already on site. Next slide, please. We met with, or we tried to meet with the community twice. We sent out an invitation before Christmas for a December 15th meeting. And unfortunately, US mail being what it was around Christmas time, I'm not sure that everybody got those notices in time. And actually the only person that showed up while we were still there was somebody who's related to the property owner. So we decided that it would be appropriate for us to try again. So a second time, invitations went out, and this time for January 5th, right after the new year. We had Coach Troud at that meeting and Ms. Ship at that meeting, and again, the property owner, but that was it in terms of representation of the community. So our efforts to meet with the community, I wouldn't say have been totally unsuccessful, but haven't been as successful as we would have liked to be. We have made changes to this plan since we filed this application. For one, and maybe Randy, you should go back to the site plan so that I can describe it in light of the site plan, assuming Randy is in charge of, keep going. Back. Back.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
The southernmost driveway, as you can see where the number 541 is on the plan? That is where the southernmost driveway was. It was 200 feet to the south. So in addition to trying to control the traffic by way of directing it with concrete barriers and the like, we also moved that curb cut to get it out from the south and out from the area of undisturbed buffer as much as we could. We are using concrete barriers to make sure that those trucks will in fact turn left. We also added southbound acceleration lanes on Rockbridge to keep access limited to Sigmund. It'll be a whole lot easier for trucks to come in that way than any other possible way to reach this property. And we also will commit as a condition of zoning to instruct all tenants to require truck access to be limited to Sigmund Road. So we have tried to the fullest extent possible, while recognizing that this is an industrial use, to make it as soft as we possibly can in terms of an M1 use. The staff has recommended approval. We're in complete agreement with all of their conditions. We also reduced the building size, which I forgot to mention. There was a prior applicant who was looking at 600,000 square feet versus of warehouse space on this site, and we thought that was entirely too much. So we have reduced that to the minimum, which the cost of developing the site will support. So with that,
excuse me, Kathy, pardon me. Yeah, you guys only have 10 minutes. It's now time for the public comment.
Okay, I just finished. It's
Okay.
a miracle.
All right, Mr. Chairman, it's now time for the public comment period. We have two individuals that have pre-registered to sign up. They are both in opposition. We have Ms. Norma Shipp and Mr. Cleveland Stroud. So Ms. Shipp or Mr. Stroud, whoever wants to go first, but you guys have 10 minutes total for your comments.
Will afterwards, excuse me, but we will after, because we, at the planning commission, we hadn't had a chance to ask Zickert any questions, but we can wait till after the public comment to do so.
Sure.
Thank you.
This is Cleveland Stroud. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My property, I have some properties adjacent to this property, and they are residential properties. I live at 1256 Rockbridge Road, and I have some property at 1264 and also at 1260 Rockbridge Road. I am concerned not only about the trucks and the traffic, I'm concerned about the noise that some of the trucks are going to be making coming through. And they can say that everything's going to go north, but truck drivers, they have this sign at the railroad track that says no trucks allowed, and trucks go by there all the time and get stuck. So the truck drivers coming from different parts of the country won't know which is north, which is south. They're going to take the closest route. Another thing I'm concerned with is that these trucks will also be running on city streets, and the city will not be collecting any taxes to help maintain those streets. So therefore, the citizens who live in the city of Carnegie are going to have to pay for the repair of these streets that these trucks are going to be tearing down without any taxes coming in to fix them back up. I know that there will be more traffic because anytime you have growth, there will be traffic. I understand that. But the type of traffic that I'm worried about is the truck traffic, because there's a hill right here at my house, and this is where they're going to be changing gears. And, trucks going to come out here whether you tell them not to or not. The purpose of zoning is to protect the integrity of the neighborhoods. And if we don't do that, then we're not fulfilling our responsibilities. And the future land use map calls for residential development at this place. And that's in section 206-16. And the M1 zone should be away from residents. I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to ask the commission this question later on. How would you like for a $500,000 warehouse to be built next to you? And I know the answer to that already, but I just want to plant that seed in your mind. We talk about we're talking about 500,000 square feet of warehouse space and 80 bays for trucks. And they didn't mention that. And also the adjacent manufacturing is to the west of this proposed development. And there's none to the north or the south. So the adjacent properties are on the backside of the proposed development. So I ask you to not disturb this neighborhood, because when this neighborhood was first developed, it was developed because we could not build our houses where we wanted to build them at the time they were built. And you know what I'm saying? So we invested in this neighborhood, and many of the people who invest in this neighborhood, the families are still here. And the buffer that you're talking about, you can enforce the buffer now, but whoever buys some more of the land later on, those trees can be cut down and in order to get worse. I thank you for your time, and I yield to Ms. Ship.
Thank you, sir. Do we have Ms. Ship?
She might have trouble getting on. I had some trouble getting on myself.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, what I'm saying here, good afternoon to everyone. I live at 1248 Rockbridge Road, and I'm definitely opposed, like Coach Stroud and other neighbors that we have talked to, about the change in the future land use and the rezoning. And the reason why is because in the presentation ahead of us, it said that we are surrounded industrial. The only industrial on Rockbridge Road is right there from Sigmund up to that fire station. Okay, so that's not surrounding. I think you're looking at other properties behind on other streets, but as far as Rockbridge Road, that's the only part that's industrial, that to my knowledge. Okay, and so our community has been there since the early 1900s. It's one of the oldest Black communities in the city as well as the county. So for years, Councilman Straw has worked with the mayors and the councils to improve the streets and put in sidewalks. We are a traditional neighborhood. And now, if you bring in all these trucks, we're going to end up tearing up the streets and the sidewalks. And what I want to point out to you all is that Rockbridge Road is more than just up in the area at the beginning of Main Street down to possibly where Coach Stroud lives. Rockbridge Road has 11 streets that feed into Rockbridge Road, okay? And so if you look at that volume, you have over 600 families that will be involved and down Rockbridge Road already. And we have Traverse Creek, a newer development over there. I'm sure they had rocks, but they put up 120 homes, and they have townhomes. And then of course we have Eastmont townhomes there at 116. So you have a large volume of residential homes on Rockbridge Road, directly off of Rockbridge Road. So we have to be careful to understand that Rockbridge Road is a main route to Main Street that leads you into Old Town Conyers. It also leads you to Green Street, will take you all around. So as far as the families directly impacted on Rockbridge Road, you have to look at Eastmont and then Rockbridge Road. That's 248 families. And so those have children and grandchildren. They catch the bus. Now we're talking about bringing in trucks, and the school bus is going to be still coming up there. And we need to be careful not to be putting our children in harm's way. And so of all those 615 families, you know, at least one of them have a house per household. And so therefore we already have high traffic. And I watched the traffic patterns 3 different times for 15 minutes each day. 32 cars came on one day in 15 minutes. The second one, 21 cars came in 15 minutes. The third, 28 cars came in 15 minutes. So if you calculate the math, we have a high volume. We hear cars all night long up and down the street. So now you are thinking about bringing 250 parking spaces and 80 truck bays. All right, I know you think you have a plan where those trucks gonna be coming from Sigmund and going back down to Sigmund. But we see 18 wheelers on Rockbridge Road already, even though they have a sign that says no trucks allowed coming up Rockbridge and Green, but they get stuck up there. They got stuck more than that one picture that she had up there. So that is a big concern. So we have to look at safety because we've had people get killed on Rockbridge Road because of the traffic. And so we're impacting the traffic very heavily. And so in my research, I also saw an article about trucks deliver surgical goods, but it's tearing up the neighborhoods. This was in the Wall Street Journal. It says it's chewing up the pavement, adding to congestion and infuriating residents who have to contend with 18 wheelers. And they're also causing headaches for state and local governments that face multi-billion-dollar bills to finance road and upkeep expansion. That supports what Coach Strawden said. The Atlanta City Councilman said that not a week goes by that he don't get a complaint about trucks running over street signs, stop signs, electrical poles, cutting through people's yards, etc. So it's a problem. And then we look at gentrification. If you put that warehouse up there, it's going to deter other people that might want to develop property up there for residential. We have Travis Creek. They put 120 houses out there, but then if you put that big warehouse there, so no one else might not even want to come that direction. So then we become gentrification. And the fact that it's a speculation because you don't have a tenant yet, so you don't know what's going to actually be in that building. So we're looking at noise, possible more pollution, and what have you. And the land use plan of 2018, the goal was to preserve existing neighborhood character and focus housing development to be responsive to market demand. But now you're talking about putting a warehouse that goes against the goals of the land use plan. So we need residential homes because number one, there's a shortage of homes. And if we can look at the other things that have been put there, like Travis Creek, that's what we need. We need homes. And so one last thing I want to say, and it was called out by the American Lung Association, it says that the most recent EPA review and research shows particle pollution concluded that non-white populations, especially Blacks, face higher risk from particle pollution. So it's talking about the fact that we put these warehouses in low-income areas, people of color area, and then we have a health effect behind that. So those are things that we want you all to consider with this rezoning. We need homes, we need residential. We do not need a warehouse up there. Thank you.
Now, Director, those are just the only two people signed up.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We only had two. Again, both were in opposition. We had no one to sign up to support this measure.
Okay. Does the applicant have time for rebuttal?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I was out of time. I do know.
Let's see. No,
I do know.
Yeah.
The property owner is here, and or a representative. I don't know if she realized she was supposed to register to speak, but she did want to speak. So I don't want to deprive her of that opportunity.
Right. We're doing the board discussion. There could be some Q&A. So yeah,
Right.
if she,
So
yeah,
technically, she's out of time for rebuttal, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right, but we can, as a board, we can ask some questions, as the people who signed up in opposition had some serious concerns. I wanted to ask, how far is the nearest residential property?
If someone can put the graphic back up on the screen that showed my distances, I don't want to tell you off the top of my head and get it wrong. Randy, are you able to do that?
I don't have control.
All right, let me just
Whoever had it, I can share my screen though, because I have the file.
is this the slide you want, Catherine?
Let me see.
It would be the one with the
It's okay. I've got it. I can give it to you verbally. I've got a copy I'm looking at. The nearest point of our building to Rockbridge, so if there are homes across the street, would be 166 feet. The townhome community that is to our northeast is about 550 square feet. We are over 541 feet to the property line, and then to Coach Stroud's properties is another 100 feet past that. So hopefully that'll answer your question.
You. I'll let the other board members have some questions.
I have some. Miss Catherine, I think, how did you determine that the land had so much rock that it would be impossible to build on it if you're building on it?
It's not a question of impossibility to build in terms of structures. It's a question of infrastructure. So you have so much rock on this site that if you are providing sewer to one building and water to one building, from a geotechnical standpoint, that is feasible. But when you are talking about running sewer lines down the middle of residential streets and then out into each individual lot, if you think about how subdivisions are laid out, that's where you start having the problem. Because there's basically more pipe to be run, and we have done geotech work on this property. I don't know what's over in this other subdivision that's relatively new, but there is a ton of rock on that property, which is not exactly a precise statement, but there's a lot.
Right, but I mean, don't they just blast for that rock?
No, because well, first of all, I don't think you want blasting if you can avoid
whatever it's called that the builders do to break it up, to move it.
You would be, hey, this is Neil, I'm with the developer. It would be, they call it digging through trench rock to run the piping, and that's it's very expensive. So you don't want to blast if you're just trying to break through rock in a certain manner. If you had to blast all the rock out there, it would be super expensive. So to do a trench rock, to cut through the rock in a trench rock way to get the piping there would be, you're just doing trench rock one time. If you had houses, you'd have trenches everywhere, and it would be millions and millions of dollars, and wouldn't work from a cost standpoint.
Okay, my next question. She mentioned a wooded area that you were going to leave or leave it wooded. Yeah. So that it would, I guess, separate the actual building from the residential area. How large is that area?
That area is 3 acres, and it's shown on the slide that is now up there.
I see it. I just didn't know how large. Oh, I see it now.
3 acres.
3 acres, yes. And you have no idea what business is going to go into this property that you're building?
Not today, no.
And which means that you don't have the business hours, so you can't really tell them that there's not going to be traffic at certain hours.
No,
I don't know the hours of the business that's going to be in there.
No, but what I can tell you is that the way that the traffic, when you're looking at traffic studies, and you probably know this already, the key is what happens at prime time, which is in the morning peak and the afternoon peak. And that's not going to change by virtue of the employer. The difference would be that there might be shifts.
Right. And I think that, and the peak is for traffic, yes, but the noise level is what the residents are concerned about, I think. So that's why I was asking that question.
And I honestly hadn't heard a complaint about noise before, but if that is an issue, we would certainly be happy to look at noise barriers or anything else that we could add to that buffer area. If that
I think the gentleman that spoke tonight said something about that.
Oh, he did.
Yes.
I just hadn't heard it before, so I didn't.
Okay. All right. Those are my concerns.
I have a question for you. Oh, Leslie, you can go first.
Okay, so this is my concerns because I do live next to Trevor's Creek, and I was here when they built all that. And they did do trench blasting to build it, and they did build it all, and it was full of rock. So to me, that feasibly can be done. Secondly, all the industrial type of properties are on the back side. They're not on rock bridges. A couple older things on that north position, but those were there before zoning was even created, is my understanding, my research. So I just think that, most of it is residential, and it was left as residential, and that we already have an impact, I can tell you from living here for 24 years, with trucks now. And the idea that you're gonna open 80 bays and not sure if you're gonna have first shift, second shift, third shift, there is a noise and quality of life issue here that I think has to be put into place and at least considered. And so I don't really have any real specific question. I understand the plot and the plat and where you want to go. But again, you know, we do have zoning rules. We have zoning rules for reasons. Now, if you were entering on the other side and you were buffering back or something, that would be different to me. But
what do you mean the other side? I hadn't thought about that.
The back side, which you can't because you don't have access to the roads.
To Leicester Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, our property does not, unfortunately,
Right.
we don't reach that.
Don't access Leicester Road, and I feel, you know, I understand what you're trying to do, and just not sure that that is the place in which to do it. Those, as both Mr. Stroud and Ms. Shipp mentioned, those neighborhoods have been there forever. And those people have the same rights to quiet and quality that everybody else has. And I think that, you know, from a living standpoint, that'll be disrupted. And that's really my, you know, pretty buildings, setback, blah, 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 blah. You can't control the truck and the noise. You just can't. So that's really my concern with.
How many trucks are going?
Well, it's 80 bays.
How many trucks are going to go in and out of there per day?
I don't know.
I mean, the
18-wheeler.
We did do a traffic study. I do not have that in front of me.
yeah, the traffic study, which again was based on a typical operation, it was about 130. But that's spread throughout the day. To Kathy's point earlier, my name is Randy Holmes, by the way. I'm one of the developer partners with Seven Oaks. But
100, you're saying 130 trucks going in and out of there?
that is total trips out in and out
24 hours.
for 24 hours. But at AM peak hours, it's 5, and at PM peak hours, it is 8. So it's spread evenly throughout the day, I guess is the point. There's not a big rush. But that was the traffic study done by Kimley Horn, who's one of the larger consulting firms that does this sort of stuff.
And they took into account the number of bays there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 130 day. Okay. What about the excessive, Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Talked about the excessive burden of existing streets and all those trucks going in and out. That also is one of the zoning, of course, the zoning criteria, whether there'll be sicker because this is there an excessive burden on existing streets? And that was a concern about Mr. Stroud.
So the trucks will be going north on Rockridge Road into the, you know, the brand new divided Sigmund Road. And then we'll be improving Rockridge Road in front of our site, you know, with sidewalks and decel lanes and turn lanes. And so I believe with the new infrastructure that's going into the north on Sigmund Road, and then what we'll be doing to Rockridge Road, sorry, I got interrupted there. I feel confident that we'll actually be improving the infrastructure there.
I think he was just noting that is a factor they're supposed to consider, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And are all the trucks coming from I-20? All those 130 trucks are all going to be coming from I-20.
That's what we anticipate, yes.
Right. And while we can't totally control that, that's what we anticipate. And that's what the traffic study supported. What we can control is the exiting from our building. We are literally going to be building concrete barriers so they cannot turn right on Rock Bridge. So they will go immediately north. And again, the next adjoining property is the animal control and fire. So the fact that Sigmund's being widened also in today's world of, you know, using Waze and whatnot on how to get there, it as Kathy said earlier, logically Sigmund Road is the way they're going to go anyway.
I have another question. Is there other undeveloped land in that area that's kind of close to those subdivisions that another person might purchase, or or have to build homes on? Because when I looked at the future land use, as one of the opposing people said, you know, if part of it is for residential. So if that's part of the way we're moving in the future, is there other undeveloped land close to here that where homes could be built?
The only other area that I am aware of that I believe remains undeveloped would be north of Sigmund.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure there's much south.
Okay.
I think it's pretty well been built out.
Okay. So that's why it's light industrial in there.
Right.
That's
I got
right.
you.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
the map right there helps. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Ms. Ziegert, I have a question regarding, I know that you don't know who the potential tenant would be in the building, but have you all had any studies regarding the emissions? That's a lot of trucks that's emitting certain things into the environment around the residential area, as well as, is there any way, this might be a Kalana's question, we can have additional conditions to limit certain levels of pollution and things like that in that area that impact the residences?
You know, I honestly have not studied truck emissions. And again, that's the first, I'm not saying it wasn't said, but that's the first time I heard that that's an issue, and I understand that. I don't see why we couldn't take a look at it and see if there is a way to control it. But I can't give you an honest answer right now off the top of my head. I do not know, and I don't want to give you false information.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other questions? Okay, we're going to meet no other questions.
Excuse me, sir. Is there any way I can reclaim my 6 seconds?
No, sir. You know the rules of the
Okay.
meetings.
Okay.
All right. All right. We're now in discussion. The public portion of this meeting is closed. And here's some thoughts. Commissioners? Do you have any comments?
Steve, can you, how is this going to, this should be 2 motions, you said?
I'm sorry, say that again. My internet connection isn't great.
So should, is this going to be 2 motions? We're approving 2 different things here?
Yes, we're voting on 2 different.
Dr. Bowie, yeah, one will be for future land use and one for the rezoning.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So the first, the first motion will be on the future land use plan amendment, and then the second motion will be on the rezoning case. But yes, there are 2.
And are they connected in some way? I mean, because.
Is there any? Yes.
Yeah. Say again.
Go ahead. You said because.
Are those 2 motions connected? Like the future land use, is that connected to us rezoning this particular piece of property?
Well, yeah. Well, it'd be hard to
Are we looking at the first motion so that the second one would be able to take place?
Yes. So we need to
All
do
right.
the future land use amendment.
Okay, got you. Okay, now I got it. Okay.
And first, and the rezoning second.
Okay.
So I'll entertain any discussion or any motions. And on the future land use plan amendment, this is a request to amend from low. It's currently the future land use plan currently designates this area to be low density residential. And its proposal is to go to light industrial.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move to deny the request to amend the future land use map category from low density residential to light residential, industrial, I'm sorry.
I second that.
Motion to deny the request to amend the future land use map from low density to light industrial. Do we have a second?
Yes, I second it.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Not opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next item would be R1B, request to rezone 4 parcels from R1 single family to R3 multifamily, M1 limited industrial.
At point of order, I think that actually because you voted the first one down, the second one can't be voted on.
Well, we normally vote it, it's pretty, in the past, we voted on it. It's pretty obvious what it would be. Obviously, you wouldn't vote to accept that if you denied that, but as a point of order, as the county, we've done that. It's kind of obvious,
But you still, a vote is still.
Right, yes,
required.
exactly, Mr. Director. That's what we've done. And so,
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we deny the rezoning.
okay. Motion to deny from R1 single family and R3 multifamily to M1 limited industrial.
I second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? I think, there are reasons to not have this and to the impact on adjacent parcels. The health, safety, and welfare is one of them we talk about in the zoning criteria, and also just burden on existing streets and the infrastructure. So with that said, we have a motion and a second. Say all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
This will be heard by the Board of Commissioners on Thursday, February 24th at 6 o'clock, and it will also be a virtual meeting. That's interesting. All right, we moving on to item R2, 2721 and 2905 Turner Road, rezoning case 2022-02. It's a request to rezone from R1 single family residential to CRS collaborative residential subdivision. The size is 111.69 acres. The applicant is Revive Land Group. And this is just a rezoning case, so it's one public hearing and one motion. Director?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members again. Zoning case, as you mentioned, 2022-02, 2721 and 2905 Turner Road is a request to rezone these 2 parcels from R1 single family to CRS collaborative residential. As you stated, 111.6 acres. The Revive Land Group is the applicant, and 2 hearings, one tonight and one at the upcoming zoning public hearing, and only 1 vote is required tonight for the rezoning. Summary, this is a 179 lot proposal for single family development. CRS calls for smaller lot sizes, a minimum of 10,000 square feet. The density is 1.6 units per acre, and this will have 2 access points based on the number of lots. Here we have a proposed layout of this particular development. As you see, it's rounded. You see the points. You see the environmental impediments, rock, and the streams that they have to account for. All right, we have an aerial site map. The red pin indicates where the proposal is on Turner Road in the proximity of our location downtown. Okay, here we have another arrow, again, showing the 2 parcels in question, where they are along Turner Road. Okay, next is the future land use map, again, showing the medium density for the parcels. Next, we have a current zoning map, again, showing R1 current zoning for the parcels in question. Okay, notes, R1 zoning is not feasible due to the physical features of the property. Some of the impediments, for instance, several creeks run through the property. There's severe topographical changes along the property. There are several patches of large rock outcroppings on the property. The CRS zoning will allow more of the natural areas of the site to be preserved, hence the need for having the smaller lots of the 10,000 square feet. Recommendation. Staff recommends approval with the following conditions: that the site plan prepared last December shall become the guiding layout and design. The actual location of water quality, streets, sidewalks, and other amenities shall be subject to the actual site conditions by the code of Rockdale County. Additionally, the site plan developed shall be in compliance with the collaborative residential subdivision zoning district if adopted. Also, the applicant shall provide a traffic impact study with the preliminary plat. Any recommendations for improvements shall be required to be shown on the land disturbance permit. As determined by the DOT, a new study may be required for this development. Any recommendations for improvements from any new studies will be required to be shown on the LDP. This concludes the staff portion of the presentation. Unless you have any questions, board members, it is now time for the applicant to present their information. So Neville or Barry, either one of you guys.
I do have some questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, hold up, guys. Mr. Chairman.
But I will save it for after the applicant. Speak now.
Okay, great. Hey guys, my name's Neville Allison. I'm the managing partner of the Revive Land Group. Appreciate everybody dialing in tonight. It looks like we have a much better turnout than last month. We're super excited about this project. I'm going to go through a couple of slides, but I do think that Kalanis did a great job on the overview. Like the previous presenter, I'm not controlling the slides, so I'll just ask to go slide down to whoever is. A little background on us: we are residential developers based here in Atlanta. We've developed several thousand lots throughout Atlanta. Throughout my career, I've developed around 10,000 lots just here in Atlanta. Unfortunately, this is the only thing I know how to do and kind of what we specialize in. Here on the first slide, you can see the location. We are on Turner Road, across the street from Parks at Stonecrest. Our site also has some frontage on Abbott Road over to the east. You can see we're here south of Stonecrest Mall. Right at that blue line represents the Rockdale County and DeKalb County line. You can see I-20 to the north of us there. If you'll go to the next slide, we've got an aerial that zooms in a little closer. Our site area is 111 acres total, of which 109 are actually in Rockdale County. You can see even here with our polygon overlaid, and I have it shaded, as Kalanis mentioned, we have a lot of physical features on this site. If any of you had the opportunity to walk onto the property, it's really breathtaking. It's almost like portions of it you're on the moon. It has some large rock outcroppings. It has several creeks, a beautiful pond in the middle. Just a really unique site that I think is going to make a special residential development. Next slide, please. If you look here, this is the zoning map that Kalanis alluded to. You can see we've got residential all around us. There's some higher density residential closer to I-20. There's some lower density residential to the south of us. And actually to the west, when you get into DeKalb County, very close by to us, there's higher density than what we're looking at again, both townhomes and detached homes. Next slide, please. This is just an overview of kind of your future land use map, which, as you guys know, is your guiding document for Rockdale County. Kalanis touched on this quickly. It's just our designation for this property is actually split. A portion of it's low density residential and the other portion is medium density residential. And you'll see that we're surrounded by the medium density residential designation. Over here on the right side of the screen, you'll see this is a chart, again, straight from your comprehensive plan that shows the allowed uses in each one of those categories. And you can see that the category we're applying for, collaborative residential subdivision, or CRS, is a recommended and allowed category within these two designations. So, you know, a lot of times, unfortunately, we come in and we're fighting against the future land use plan. You know, the previous case you guys saw had that going against them, where they were looking for a change in the future land use plan. You'll see here, we're right down the fairway for what the folks of Rockdale have designated to go here at this property. Next slide, please. Here's an overall version of our site plan. It's a color rendering. You can see the first thing that hopefully jumps out to you is a lot of residential developments are going to have the lots all banged together, you know, just a real tight cluster development. And that means backyards backing up to backyards and creating, you know, just not as much privacy and more of a cluster style development. You'll see here on our development, our roads pretty much meander. You know, we've got double loaded streets, which is important from a development cost standpoint, but we also have a ton of open space. Our total open space here on this site constitutes, I believe, 45% of the site, which is huge. We never get to say that. So it's exciting for us to be able to say, you know, that's what we're going for. If you go to the next slide, that's our green space exhibit there. You know, we've grayed out the lots so you can see all of the green areas. A couple of things that I want to point out, if we'll go back up to our color rendering, just the slide we were just on, you'll notice that we have two entrances. That's Egresson areas. One is on Abbott Road and the other is on Turner Road, directly across the street from the Parks of Stonecrest. And you'll see, if you had the opportunity to drive the site, we're fortunate that that entrance already actually has the required right of way for the proper turn lanes and the desale lanes for this development. There's a reason for that, and that's before we came along, another developer had planned a development directly across from Parks at Stonecrest here on our southwest corner of the site under the existing R1 zoning. And what we've done is add on to that, which allows us to have all the open space and the amenities, walking trails, kind of all the things that we're going to touch on. So if we'll go down two slides, I think first one will be the open space and then one more. And that's our black and white site plan. It has more detail. And again, once you guys have questions, I can go back over it. Some of the biggest things to talk about is, you know, if you look at the cover page, we have 179 lots, and that sounds like a huge development. And it's not small, but neither is our acreage. You know, we've got 111 acres here. And so what that equates to is a gross density of 1.6 units per acre, which, if you guys know the CRS category, it actually allows north of 3 units per acre. And so we are absolutely on the bottom side of that density. And that's kind of on purpose. You know, we want to conform to what's around us. We don't want to ever be, you know, the ugly duckling or a square peg in a round hole. It's very important for us that we conform to what's around us. And that's why you get the density that we're showing. If you'll go down one more slide. So this is a zoomed in portion of the southwest portion of our site. On the left side, you'll see a current approved plan. I believe they have a land disturbance permit in hand, and so they could come and develop those 37 lots right across the street from the Parks at Stonecrest. One thing to note is with the R1 zoning, you can see that the lots along Turner Road back up directly to the right of way. So that means, you know, they could build a privacy fence as close to that property line as the code allows, and there isn't, you know, maybe the folks that drive down Turner Road wouldn't want to see, you know, a fence that isn't being maintained, or 8 different styles of fences across, you know, those lots. The advantage of the CRS zoning, as Kalanis mentioned, you get slightly smaller lots. I mean, if you look at the two, you can see our lots are slightly smaller than the ones under the R1 zoning. But as a give and a take for that, we are required to give a 50-foot zoning buffer against all of our outside property lines. And that includes along all of our public right-of-ways. So I've called out this one here along Turner Road. You can see that our lots are pulled back an additional 50 feet away from that road. And that's for two reasons. It's one, we want the neighborhood to be screened from our subdivision, and we want our subdivision to be screened from the neighborhood. And that allows us to do that. With that buffer, we can plan evergreen screening for the benefit of existing citizens as well as the future residents of our deal. Next slide, please. What I've done here is show some of our product examples that would be here. Again, we feel like what we're trying to do is in conformity with what's around us. It's Class A development with Class A product. Everybody always wants to know, hey, well, what's this going to look like? And so this slide and the next one after it just show some product examples of traditional Craftsman architecture that would be used on this site, both two-story homes and some ranch product. You can see mixed materials on the facades with brick, stacked stone, hardy plank, board and batten on some of the others on the slide above this one. And everybody always wants to know that the second question, what's it look like? How much are you going to charge for it? And again, we do Class A development. It's hard to pinpoint a product that's going to be on the ground 2 years from now. But if we were to sell in today's environment, and we certainly hope the market continues to go up some, we see our absolute smallest square footage starting in the high 300s and having that go up all the way through the 4s and most likely into the 5s on our largest stuff. The square footage range would be somewhere between 2,500 square feet for single story homes, all the way up to 3,800 or so for two-story homes. And that's only including the top 2 floors, not including any basement square footage. And so again, we feel like that's very much in line with properties that are around us. One of the things that I think will really help that we have with our development that a lot of the surrounding developments don't, and if you'll go back to our site plan, is not just the open space, but what we plan on doing with it. We have a 2.5 acre rec area. So if you could just keep going to the overall site plan, please. There you go. Right there in the middle by our lake, we've designed a pool and cabana, grass pavilion, all overlooking that central lake, which it's going to be gorgeous. It's going to want to make folks come and be a part of our community. The last thing I kind of want to touch on, I'm probably running short on time and I apologize. I think when our zoning sign went up, there was a lot of concerns from the surrounding neighbors because there wasn't a lot of information given. With the delay in the planning commission hearing, and actually we were able to do it before last month's planning commission hearing, we held a neighborhood meeting via Zoom and had some folks that were instrumental in circulating the link for that Zoom meeting. It was on Nextdoor. So I think it got pretty heavily circulated among the neighbors. And we anticipated a lot of pushback and opposition, during that meeting because rezonings are scary for folks. It's change and they don't know what's going to come there. And they're very concerned. It's their largest investment for most people that they have in their lives. And I think, they should be concerned. But what I thought was really cool was that after our meeting, we had several of the people at the meeting voice their support for what we were doing and trying to do here. And then afterwards, we had a couple of the citizens email our district commissioner and voice their support for our subdivision and say that they welcome us, looking forward to welcoming us into the community. I think that's really cool. So with that, if I have any time left, I think I'm probably just going to hang on to it and save it for rebuttal or answer your guys' questions. from there, I'll mute myself, and if you've got questions for me, more than happy to answer them when it's time.
How many, if you didn't get this collaborative residential subdivision, how many houses would be able to develop on this land?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. So the R1 category allows up to 1.45 units per acre. And so from a density standpoint, we're really not asking for that much more than what's allowed under R1. But by doing the CRS, we're able to preserve so much more open space. We're able to design around things like rock. That was a concern on the other subdivision, and we've got rock outcroppings that we're able to design our subdivision and wrap around those versus try to develop every square inch of the property, which is what happens with an R1 zoning. CRS, it basically means a conservation subdivision because you are conserving so much more land, which is beneficial from a tree canopy standpoint, a natural resources standpoint, as well as natural features like the rocks I just mentioned.
I understand, but my question was, if it were R1 and with all the unbuildable areas or whatever, if it remained R1, how many homes would be able to be built on this property? That's what I was curious.
Yeah, and again, we have not done that exercise because it wouldn't be enough to develop the site. As Kalanis mentioned, the site can't be developed as R1 because of those natural features.
But you said it couldn't be developed, so no homes could go on that property if it were R1.
I suppose you could put not enough to make it a feasible project for anyone. Correct. It would devalue the land such that it could not be developed.
It wouldn't be economically feasible to do so. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. And in terms of a traffic study.
Yes, sir. So that's one that yes, sir, we have. We actually just got a draft back earlier today, anticipating, wanting to look at the traffic. And it's not because we're better developers than anyone else, but we're very fortunate that if you guys have reviewed traffic studies in the past, the way that they do it is they look at the existing intersections surrounding our subdivision. In this case, I think looked at 5 of the surrounding intersections, and they rank the quality of those intersections A, B, C, D, E, and F. And that's based on basically how long it takes to get through that intersection. What's the delay? And we're fortunate enough that all of those existing intersections, and this is ranked not by me, but by a third-party traffic engineer. That's all they do is study traffic and traffic counts, A's and B's, and frankly, most of them A's. They then look at our additional traffic load, where people are commuting in different directions and going different places based on the surrounding job nodes, and our traffic distribution with 2 entrances, and came to the conclusion that the level of service at each one of those intersections is remaining the same under our build out scenario. So what that means is that our traffic is insignificant as it relates to burdening the surrounding intersections and roads. And to be specific, I think the delays were somewhere between 1 and 1.5 seconds of how much of a delay it would be at each one of the intersections turning because of our traffic.
Have you gotten feedback from DeKalb County, or do you even get that anyway, or is that necessary, or they?
Yeah, so this is a land use hearing, and the land use is in Rockdale County, and so the feedback is all through Rockdale staff. And I failed to mention that they did recommend approval for us with a few conditions for which we are agreeable to. The only portion that DeKalb has to do with here is sewer service. Our sanitary sewer is provided by DeKalb County through an intergovernmental agreement between Rockdale and DeKalb. And we have applied for our sewer capacity request. It's called with DeKalb County and have given a verbal that has been approved and that there is capacity to gravity flow into the existing pump station to our west. And we expected that formal capacity approval last week, and now we're told it's going to be next week because it's DeKalb County.
All right. Just so curious, you mentioned the district commissioner that was emailed. We don't have district commissioners, so I'm not sure who.
I'm sorry, it was Miss Washington.
Okay, all right. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, taking up enough of your time, I think. Anybody else have any questions?
I'm sorry, I have a question. I think it's a Kalana's question. I'm looking at the zoning history, and I noticed in 07, there was a request to go from R1 to CRS, and it was denied. Do you have any idea why at that point? Because we're trying to do the same thing.
No, ma'am. I just have that research that it was denied 15 years ago, but I'm not sure why.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just interested. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
That's a good point. We usually like to know that, but I guess don't have that information. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. There being none, is there anybody signed up to speak, Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have one individual that signed up to speak. This individual is in support of the proposal, Ms. Kelly Cato. Ms. Cato, are you on?
Okay, hear from this person.
Yes, I am. Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission and the Planning Department, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I am Kelly Cato. My husband and I reside at the Parks of Stonecrest, Rockdale, 3205 Cranberry Way, Conyers, Georgia, 30094. Our subdivision, as Mr. Allison had said, is directly across from one of the entrances for the new subdivision. We love Rockdale County, and we're approaching now our 5th year with our build out. Initially, some of you received a knee-jerk email from me that was initiated by rumor and not being able to define or understand what the CRF zoning rezoning was. I did reach out. Commissioner Washington did call me back and drove our area, which meant a lot as a citizen and, you know, as a resident. Mr. Allison also connected with me, and I worked with getting the word out through Nextdoor, also through our neighbors. We have 77 homes here, which are all occupied. And we know about, we have a circle of about 3/4 of those neighbors. Many of those did participate in the Zoom meeting on January 11th, and it was extremely helpful. It was extremely informative, and it gave us an opportunity to gain knowledge and learn about the project and the caliber of the Revived Land Group. In a general consensus, I can say that my immediate neighbors and I look forward to the neighborhood and the asset that it provides to this part of our county. Thank you.
You're welcome. And is there, that's just one person signed up to speak, Director?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's the only individual that signed up. Yeah, no one signed up in opposition.
Okay, there being no other people sign up, we can close the public hearing of this rezoning request, and we're now in discussion and our motion.
I move that we approve this rezoning located at Turner Hill.
Okay. Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Item R3, it's a preliminary plat, 1774 Flat Shoals Road. Preliminary plat case number 2021-0113, request to approve a preliminary plat for a 145 unit single family attached townhouse development. It's on 45 acres. It's one public hearing and one motion. Director?
All right, good evening again, Mr. Chairman. Item R3 is a preliminary plat for 1774 Flat Shoals Road, and this is for the approval of a 145 unit single family attached townhome we brought before you last year. 2 parcels, approximately 45 acres. Planners and Engineering Collaborative is the applicant. And again, one hearing, actually, because it's a plat, there's not a hearing tonight, no public comment,
Right.
but one vote by your board. Summary, the proposed subdivision is on Flat Shoals Road Southeast, and again, will contain 145 single-family attached townhomes. It was rezoned last year, 2021, and that was rezoning case 2021-07. And the future land use category was also amended last year, which is future land use case 2021-05. Here you have a couple of images here. One is just a map showing the red pin indicates where the Flat Shoals location is and its proximity to the 981 Millstead location. And to the right is an aerial showing the parcel in question along Flat Shoals Road. Next, we have a preliminary site plan showing the 145 townhome layout, again, along Flat Shoals Road. This is a zoomed in image, again, showing the some of the front and or rear loaded townhomes, again, showing the 2 entrance points along Flat Shoals Road. And another zoomed in, this is the northwestern portion of it. You see the stormwater management pond, as well as some of the other townhomes that they're proposing. And finally, you see the some of the topographical, contours and future flood limits as well on the another side of the property. In terms of the recommendation, staff recommends the preliminary plat be approved as the respective infrastructure development, fire marshal, planning development, our DOT, RWR, and stormwater management all approve the preliminary plat. So that concludes staff's portion. You have any questions from the board at this point?
Any questions? Well, I think people know how I feel about all these townhome developments, but that isn't pertinent to our discussion and motion tonight, because we're looking at a preliminary plat, whether it meets all the requirements, and it does. Any other comments and or motions?
Mr. Chairman, if I will, if there are any questions, let you know that the applicants are available if you want to ask them a question.
I just want to go on record as agreeing with Steve about the apartments and townhomes, but I would like to ask, do you have a model of what this would look like? Because that's 145 units is a lot for 45 acres, it seems. I mean, but I know it all complies with everything in the guidelines, but do we have any idea what they will look like or what is proposed that they look like?
Dr. Bowie, yes, ma'am. For the preliminary plat, we don't have that, but last year when the PC approved the rezoning and the future land use amendment, we did have renderings for interior and exterior, but we don't have any for the preliminary plat. But okay. I can say offline, I can show you what they submitted for the elevations and the from last year.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All righty, so any other questions under motion?
I have a curiosity question since I'm new to all this. Does the, and it may be that the county doesn't or the city doesn't. Is there any requirements for on townhome builds for how many can be actually rentals within those properties?
Ms. Lambert, that's a great question.
Thank you.
And again, when we went through the rezoning and the future land use amendment phase last year, we do, one of our zoning conditions is that no more than 5% can be set aside for rental.
Okay. That's just my edification. Thank you.
No problem. Great question.
That being said, there's something perhaps legislation or court that may be made mute in terms of what happens, but right now that's what we in condition it to. All right, any other questions and or motions?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the build of these units.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All righty, moving on to item R4, 1141 Old Salem Road, rezone. Case number 2022-03, or request to rezone from.
Sorry. Wait, sorry.
Oh, okay, that's okay. A request to rezone from M1 Limited Industrial to C2 General Commercial, 2.63 acres, applicant Forsyth Hospitality. And this would be one public hearing and one motion required. Director?
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman. Apologize for that earlier. I got it.
No problem.
Ahead of myself. So yeah, rezoning case 2022-03, 1141 Old Salem. Is a request to rezone a property from M1 Limited Industrial to C2 General Commercial. There are two parcels, approximately 2.63 acres. And this will require two public hearings, the one tonight and the upcoming zoning public hearing. And because it's only a rezoning, only one vote is required tonight. This is for the development of a hotel. They're looking at 89 bedrooms maximum, which is 320 square feet for each room on average. A 4-story structure, maximum building height of 50 feet. Looking at 92 parking spaces, and all guest rooms will be accessed internally with no direct room access to the outside. Here is a map, site map. Again, the red pin is indicating where this is along Old Salem, close to Dogwood, and in vicinity to the 901 Millstead, where we are downtown. Next image is our future land use map. And as you see, this is currently a C1 commercial, and it's surrounded by a sea of additional C1 commercially zoned properties. All right, and in terms of current zoning, this property currently is zoned M1 Limited Industrial, but it's still surrounded by other commercially zoned properties currently. And we have another aerial, just give you another perspective of where this property is, close to, again, Old Salem and Iris, close to I-20. And this is a preliminary site layout provided by the applicant of what they're proposing the hotel to look like. In terms of recommendation, staff, we do approve with the following conditions. The conceptual plan prepared by Carter was dated last December, shall become the guiding layout and design. The actual location of the water quality features, street sidewalks, and other amenities will be subject to the actual site conditions of our code. The site shall be developed in compliance with the proposed revisions regarding general commercial zoning district, if adopted. The applicant shall provide a traffic impact study with the preliminary plat. Any recommendations shall be for improvements shall be required to be shown on the LDP. And as determined, our DOT, a new traffic study could be required. And any recommendations for improvements from any new studies shall also be required to be shown on the LDP. Okay. That concludes the staff portion of the presentation. Unless you have any questions, Mr. Chairman, the applicant now wants to present a few slides.
The applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for the time here tonight. Some of our presentation will be a little repetitive of what's already been covered, so I'll move through that fairly quickly. I'm Ben Vaughn of Vaughn Sundin, and I represent Forsyth Hospitality, Inc., and I have here with me Don Carter of Carter Engineering Group. Mr. Capadia, Fred Capadia, is the principal of Forsyth Hospitality. He unfortunately could not be with us tonight. They had a death in the family, and he had to get on a flight to Texas. So we apologize. He asked we apologize on his behalf that he couldn't be here tonight. Like y'all heard, this application is to go from M1 to C2 to develop a 89-room hotel. It'll be an IHG flagged Holiday Inn Express hotel. The rendering of the outside of the property is on the first slide here. And if you'll go to the next slide in the presentation, there's an additional rendering with the site map in the bottom, which I've already seen. If you keep moving through here, there's some more elevations of the property. I think there's the layout of the first floor. It will be an interior corridor hotel. All rooms will be accessed through an interior corridor of the property, no exterior doors. Next slide, please. That'll be the front elevation of the property. And then in the next slide, I believe there's the side or rear elevations of the property. Next slide, please. There you go. That's the site plan, the layout of the site plan showing the parking, the existing features or the features that'll be shown on the property and the ingress and egress to and from the site onto Old Salem Road. The next slide is what has already been discussed, the general surrounding of the property. The property is currently zoned M1 and is surrounded by commercial properties and designated on your future land use plan also as a commercial site, with the future land use plan being commercial surrounding. So it's compatible with the future land use plan here. Next slide, please. These are just clippings of aerial photographs of the businesses that are surrounding the hotel site. You can see, and there's another hotel to the southeast. There's restaurants, Burlington shopping, car dealership, that type of businesses. As staff has noted, this property will be compatible with the surrounding uses of the property in close proximity to the I-20 exit ramp there. Next slide. In our initial meeting with the planning staff, they asked us to look at surrounding or other hotels in the area and how many rooms per acre those sites were. So we've compiled some of those here. As you can see there, they range anywhere from the high being 80 rooms per acre for the Country Inn and Suites to the low for our property being 34 rooms per acre. The parking averages, ranges anywhere from the Best Western being the high of 102 down to the Country Inn and Suites being 68 parking spaces for these hotels. Next slide, please. Forsyth Hospitality is an experienced developer in this area. They've done hotel projects all over the Georgia and in South Carolina and other jurisdictions. This is a project that they've completed recently in Covington, Georgia. This is also a Holiday Inn Express flagged hotel. And so we wanted to give you all some feel of a project that was recently completed by this developer. Next slide. This is also a recent project here. This is a Holiday Inn Express as well. This is in Jackson, Georgia, near the 1675 interchange, if y'all are familiar with that area. Next slide. And that concludes our presentation. We'll take any questions and reserve the remainder of our time for any rebuttal, unless you have anything you want to add. I think that's all for us for now.
Mr. Vaughn, I was looking at the plan and I was just curious as to whether or not you had any designated spaces for 18-wheelers. You have frontage along 20. I was just curious as to whether or not it was, if you
anticipated truck parking on site.
We do not, no ma'am, we do not anticipate any truck parking on site.
Okay.
And are you conditioning it to this Holiday Inn Express, or it could be another?
The intent is
hotel?
to do a Holiday Inn Express. I believe Forsyth Hospitality already has approval from Holiday Inn to do the Holiday Inn Express here. I don't know whether the intent was to specifically limit it to a Holiday Inn Express or not, but that is the plan and has already been approved through Holiday Inn.
I think we can discuss this further later, but just so we know, if we do approve this rezoning, should be noted that it's not conditioned on this certain hotel. So we want to make sure we have conditions in place to have something, good for the community, such as I know you don't have any plans, but an extended stay hotel. Something like that, because technically you rezone this property and something like that could go there. So, but we can take that up later to make sure we have a quality product there.
Understood. And the intent is absolutely to do something that's a quality product and a benefit to the community.
Right, sure. We're just going to protect the community, and so make sure.
Sure.
Doing this for a long time, we approve zoning category, and say Forsyth Hospitality decides not to do anything there, it is zoned for a hotel, and somebody else can put something there. But it's not really, well, we can talk about that later. I was just making that comment. Anybody else have anything? All right, thank you. Directors, anybody signed up to speak?
Mr. Chairman, we have no individuals to sign up to speak tonight at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, then we can close the public portion of this hearing, and we're in board discussion. Have any questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, that was what my concern as to what you were kind of alluding to regarding not knowing what would be there. And I know that there's a lot of development that's going, a lot of commercial development in that area. And I was just wondering if whether or not if we rezoned it, would it restrict continued commercial development in that area?
So you have concerns about additional commercial in.
Right. That's currently there's a lot of commercial development.
Right.
Going there, and I was curious if we don't actually, if we actually rezone it, do we stop some potential commercial development in those particular areas?
Certainly, I'm not in the adjacent properties. I mean, you open up opportunity for commercial, but we also have to take in mind this is already zoned. And one limited industrial, so it's high density zoning category.
Right. That's just a concern.
Sure. In terms of the number of rooms mentioned, again, if we rezone it to a hotel, that doesn't necessarily limit it what they're proposing. I have no doubt what they're proposing to do, but what if something falls through? You have to have, make sure something quality like that goes there. Director, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, sir. We don't have any specific ordinance requirements for hotels at this particular point. Now, along the Salem Road overlay area, where there's overlay and the Salem Road corridor, there's certain requirements for certain types of uses. But in this particular area, which is right outside of that overlay district, we don't have any specific, types of hotel requirements written right now. But again, it's one of the things that caught our attention was the commercial use and the Holiday Inn Express. That was something that caught our eye. So that's what we are hoping that the developer would move forward with what they have planned or discussed in their application.
Okay. Well, and that's a good point. I thought we're not even. This is straight C2, so theoretically, any C2.
The C2 is because of where it is located on the material. C1 to C2 is based on actually the size of the facility and the location. C2s are normally on larger arterial and/or minor collectors, and so this particular Old Salem at Iris area is a heavily traveled corridor versus a downtown area where C1 or local street would be. So
we're rezoning it. It's helpful to know that we're rezoning it to C2. We are not rezoning it for a hotel. Just straight C2. So anything in C2 could go there.
Yeah, that's a thought. Yes.
Right. Okay. Just so I know.
Yeah, we don't have anything in any standard, anything that says it has to be a hotel.
Right. I just want to we're looking at a hotel, but it doesn't necessarily be a hotel. I would, since they're proposing a hotel, I would like to put a condition: should a hotel be developed, no, they shouldn't have any problems with that because that's not what we're planning. No extended stay hotel, no running of any rooms for longer than 2 weeks. I was thinking.
But now, if the planning commission wants to approve this with the condition, that's something that obviously you have the ability to do.
Right.
You can approve as we present it, or you can request a condition as you just mentioned.
Right. Recommended the Board of Commissioners. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Chair, I agree with the condition that you raised.
You said any other comments, motions?
I move that we.
What we're doing.
I move that we approve this, adding the condition that was raised by the chair before it moves to the commissioners.
Okay. Motion from M1 to C2 with a condition that no extended hotel be developed on this property, which means a limit of 2 weeks stay. Is there a second on that or any?
Oh, I second that with the conditions.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I
yes,
may,
sir.
I may be out of place here, and if I am, I apologize. But before y'all make a motion, if I could make a simple request here that we modify the condition just to be no extended stay hotel. And even if you wanted to say an interior corridor hotel, instead of putting a specific time frame on the stay of the applicant or the stay of the individuals.
Sir, when you say extended stay, that can mean a lot of things. So you really need to define that. There is no one definition of what an extended stay hotel is. So you really need to put some kind of limit. So that's.
As a point of order, Mr. Chairman, it would depend on what
that's on the
extended
table
stay
here.
or house defined in our ordinance. So if you want to add the condition of no extended stay hotel, it will be based on how that's defined in
I
our
don't
ordinance.
know if we have a, okay. Pursuant to it, how, well, we could still put a condition extended stay with as a condition, no extended stay hotel, limit of 2 weeks now. And because even if it's in the ordinance, you can put that, whatever the Board of Commissioners wants to do, but you can put that extended stay with a limit of 2 weeks. So as a condition, hotel, but if Board of Commissioners chooses to agree with that, they can say extended stay 2 weeks or no extended stay. So I guess that's of our recommendation is stand and
Sure.
we'll let the VOC decide, see about it. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is all in favor? Say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay. None opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item R5. 1900 Dogwood and 0 Old Covington Highway. Future land use amendment case number 2022-02. Request to amend the future land use map category from light industrial to high density residential. Request to rezone 2 parcels from M1 limited industrial to RM residential multifamily. Size is 8.65 acres. Applicant is Moore Bass Consulting. And here we'll have 2 hearings here and 2 motions, which will combine into one presentation. We have the future land use map and the rezoning. Director?
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman. Item R5, as you just mentioned, is at 1900 Dogwood and 0 Covington Highway, 2 parcels. Looking at a future land use amendment 2022-02 to go from the future land use current of light industrial to high density residential, and also a request to rezone parcels from M1 limited industrial to RM multifamily residential. The total size is 8.6 acres. Moore Bass Consulting is the applicant. And again, 2 hearings, one tonight, one at the zoning public hearing, and tonight we need 1 vote for each of the items. This will allow for the development of 70 townhomes. The proposed gross density is 8.1 units per acre. The proposal has 2 access points, one on Dogwood Drive and one on Old Covington. And they are proposing to have approximately 4.5 acres of open space. Here's a site map. The red pin is showing where the 1900 Dogwood location is, adjacent to I-20, and in the vicinity from the 901 Millstead Avenue where we're located. Next is a future land use map, and it is showing where, again, currently these are industrial zoned parcels surrounded by a residential, multifamily residential parcel to the north of it, and some other commercials across the highway, and some other commercials in the same area as well. In terms of zoning, here it's showing where we have current zoning, 1 M1, 1 commercial zone property. Again, and it is in the vicinity of current where BJ's is, which is light industrial, and the brownish, goldish color is a current existing multifamily residential zone townhome. Another site layout aerial basically shows the two parcels in question. Again, close to I-20, as well as Dogwood, as well as Old Covington as well. All right, here is a preliminary site plan, again, showing the 70 townhomes, showing the 2 access points, along with their proposed open space requirements. In terms of recommendation, staff recommends approval with conditions. The site plan that was prepared by Moore Bass last December shall become the guiding layout and design. The actual location of the water quality features, streets, sidewalks, and amenities shall be subject to the actual site conditions and requirements of our UDC. The site shall be developed in compliance with the proposed revisions regarding multifamily zoning, if adopted. The applicant shall provide a traffic impact study with a preliminary plat. Any recommendations for improvement shall be required to be shown on the land disturbance permit. Additionally, excuse me, go ahead. Apologize for that. Additionally, as determined by our DOT, a new study may be required for the development, and any recommendations for improvements from any new studies shall be required to be shown on the LDP. This concludes staff's portion of the presentation. The applicant does, unless you have any questions, the applicant is prepared to present their portion.
It's time we'll hear from the applicant.
Okay, so Pam, Jennifer, or Kelly?
Jennifer Chrisman here.
Okay. And you guys have 10 minutes, just to let you know.
Okay. Do you have my presentation?
Yeah, we get ready to pull it up. 1 second.
Awesome. Thank
Share the
you.
screen and pull you guys up.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Jennifer Chrisman. I am an engineer with Moore Bass Consulting. We're representing Blue River Development. Tonight, I know it's almost, we've hit the 2-hour mark, so I'm gonna hopefully answer your questions as quickly as possible and get you guys out and moving on. But this is a visual of an overlay of the map of what we're looking to do. As the director said, we do have 2 entrances proposed. One, the one that would be on the frontage road on Dogwood Drive, would just be a gated emergency only. So we'd have a Knox box or something similar there. Also, the gated entrance would be along Covington Highway. As the director mentioned, it's a little under 9 acres. We're proposing 70 townhomes, but 4.5 of those acres will remain open space. Next slide, please. This is just, I'm a visual person, so hopefully you are as well. This is just a rendering of what the constituents would see as they were entering the park. Gated entrance off of Old Covington Highway. Next slide, please. Also, we're proposing a central amenity area just in front of the entrance. And we can go to the next slide as well. Just showing some central area that we would have for obviously families to play, a hangout area, community. Next one, please. This is what the townhomes would look like. If you're not familiar with Blue River Development, they do a beautiful product. In this development, they are proposing a modern farmhouse take with a 2-car garage, obviously front facing. Street view, and no more than 6 units together. Next, please. This is just a street view right when you've passed that fire pit. You'll see on the right, we do have additional spaces. Per the zoning, we would need 24 spaces, and we've proposed with our conceptual layout 31, just to have some extra off street parking available. And the next. And then lastly, we do a lot, we do engineering and we do a lot of surveying and drone. We've done a ton of drone work. When you look at the recent aerial as December, actually, when we submitted this plan, that RM site that the director mentioned actually has already been cleared. So we would be adjacent to that. So BJ's, of course, would be the top left or north side. The RM site's been cleared, and then our potential site would be just to the south of that. But again, no entrances would be off of Dogwood Drive. It would be emergency only. And then along Old Covington Highway is where our main entrance would be. So that's my brief presentation. Of course, I'm here for questions or any more detail that you would like.
Any questions?
I have a question. Did I understand you to say that 4.5 almost acres would be left vacant of this 8.65 acres?
Yes, ma'am. It would be open space.
So are there trees on the land now?
Yes, ma'am. On the perimeter there are.
So are you landscaping that to be green space?
We'll do some street landscaping like we showed in our rendering. And then of course, around our ponds, we'll have to do some landscape. A lot of that will be some form of a retention pond. We may do a trail, but a lot of that will be more of buffer, because kind of different than the applicant originally, we're going to be close to commercial. So we're going to want to buffer, our client's going to want to buffer the commercial array from the residential. So.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you were not leaving it to, if we approve the rezoning, to build out something else there later. I think that's where I was going.
I understand.
And that's not the case, correct?
The way our layout worked is it just ended up, our best layout left 4.5 acres of open space. So someone different could have a different layout. That was the way we proposed it, and it felt the best to our clients.
Dr. Bowie, one of our conditions, we mentioned that the layout, once we decide upon it, that should be the guiding layout for this as we move forward to the LDP. So
okay, that's what I'm trying to make sure of. Thank you. Yeah,
Yes,
that answers my question.
Yes, ma'am. Good question.
Thank you, Director.
Any other questions? Okay. As director, is there anybody else signed up to speak?
Mr. Chairman, we have no individuals that have signed up for public comment tonight for this particular item.
All right. We will now close the public hearing and go into the board discussion. I've made my opinion known many times in terms of the proliferation of the townhomes. And one of the things we have as our guiding principle, as I said before, is our comprehensive land use plan. What we've done in this county is really gone against the comprehensive land use plan in many of these townhome communities. I have concern because the comprehensive land use plan should be our guiding picture to use of what the county should look like. You want to change the comprehensive land use plan, change it. But for now, this is our guide. What we keep doing with these townhomes is really gut our comprehensive land use plan by changing it to put in these townhomes. I don't truly believe this is an industrial area and fail to see how this property can't be developed as it is industrial. So that is my concern. It's nothing new, but I'll just repeat it again. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll ask you the question that Ms. White asked the last time. So if we vote to rezone to residential, is that going to limit or keep it from being the limited industrial? Is that going to prevent that from happening? I know, I know what's there now will have to remain.
Say that you're talking about this specific property?
Yes, well, no, just the area itself.
No,
I
the
mean,
area,
I
okay,
think all
right.
of us have the same concern with all of these, condos and, well, not really condos, the multi-family apartments and all of that coming in and hotels and stuff.
To answer your question, no, it won't. You have the rezoning, you have the domino effect.
Okay.
Somebody
Okay.
does it and the next person.
Yeah, that's where we're
The next
headed.
person.
Yeah.
So when you look at comprehensive land use plan and rezoning, you need to look at what could happen, but we're not looking even at a single property, but what can continue to happen here.
Right.
Right. Those are my thoughts. Any other thoughts, comments?
Just wanted to make sure the areas that are adjacent to this property, they are industrial. Are they developed, undeveloped? Have they ever been developed as anything?
Ms. White, the areas that are adjacent to it, there was an aerial map that they showed with the drone footage.
Mm-hmm.
There's another townhome development that is actually being graded, being developed as we speak.
Oh,
and then beside it is the BJ's. And so some of those were properties that have been sitting there that were vacant for a few years. So the BJ's obviously still in operation, but this will be next to a forthcoming townhome RM zone property. So one of the rationales for staff when the application came in was that, the I think it's called Centennial Ridge is the name of it. Centennial Ridge is beside this one, and it makes sense for it to be rezoned for townhomes. And so this being right beside the Sam's, it makes sense for it to, and I think the chairman called it a domino effect.
The domino effect. Here is an excellent example of, why I was concerned about the other one, an excellent example of the domino effect.
Absolutely.
But one of the things we looked at from staff is that where it is, in terms of infrastructure, close to the city, it's closer to the interstate. That's where most of the dense multifamily development housing should take place, where the water, sewer, and the major roadways are. So in terms of planning sense, it does make sense for it to take place in that particular area.
How many townhomes do you know are in the adjacent property?
I'm sorry, Ms. White?
Do you know just how many townhomes are in the development that seem to be graded land?
I want to say that was approximately 130 or 140. It's a much larger site, but I want to say approximately 130 or 140 site townhomes.
I have to disagree with your planning. Planning should take place. You're looking at the comprehensive land use plan. That should be our guide for planning. I've said that before. I'll say it again. That is your planning guide, in my opinion. Anyway, those are my thoughts, but they're not surprising.
So for my understanding, in essence, you've already broke that planning by allowing the other one. And, once you've let one in, how do you? I mean, I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, but we can do that because we still have the comprehensive land use plan as a backup, as a guide. Okay. So you have a case. This property hasn't been rezoned that.
Mm-hmm.
We still have the comprehensive land use plan, which should be followed.
Yeah, you won't get any argument from me
that
there.
area can still be light and Yeah, I know that. I just got
No,
presenting it.
saying,
Yeah.
you know, when you put those land use plans in, there's a reason that's done, right? And if we just willy-nilly change I don't know. I just don't know.
Also, I don't think we have to vote to approve one if another one was not approved, or vice versa, simply because all of these are not created equal. They may be asking for the same or similar things to be done in the rezoning, but the land, the development, and all of that, all of those things are different.
This is as a side note, but I'll say it again. My comment was then and it is now. And I've requested in this Board of Commissioner, this Planning Commission at the time unanimously sent a letter to the county and the city to look at putting a moratorium on these townhomes, to look at where they should go. Board of Commissioners did not take that up. But that still is my position. That was at the time the board to, put a moratorium, look at where they should go, have a sensible plan of where do you want to put all these things, all these townhome developments. Fortunately, they did not.
I think that's a great idea. And I think that is something I think, well, at least everyone here tonight, and I know this has been a concern for me since I've been on this commission, the board here, but, all of the townhomes, but, I do think we need to do that. So I would agree with that moving forward.
Perhaps the director could just reiterate the position of some members of this board, kind of bring that up again. So that being said, we're still in discussion or motion. The first one would be on the future land use amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to request to deny the amendment of the future land use map category.
Let's deny the future land use plan amendment from light industrial to high density.
High density.
Is there?
I second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Not opposed. Second, the rezoning case 2204 that rezoned from M1 to RM.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose to deny the request to rezone two parcels from M1 to RM. Residential.
Second.
Motion denied. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Not opposed. Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right, that is the end of our zoning hearings here. And we're on to reports. City of Conyers, there's none. Rockdale County, there's none. The Board of Commissioners meeting on this hearing will be held on Thursday, February 24th. It will also be, like this meeting, virtually. Any person wishing to speak during the public comment at the zoning public hearing is requested to register in advance by contacting the Rockdale County Department of Planning and Development at planning@rockdalecountyga.gov or 770-278-7100 by Wednesday, February 23rd at 5 p.m. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be March 10th, Thursday at 6 o'clock, and it will also be, like today, a virtual hearing. And the next final item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion?
A motion, we adjourn.
Okay. So let's
A
stay here.
second.
A second. Oh, you don't want to stay here? Okay.
I-
Okay. Uh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Opposed? We are unanimously adjourned. Thank you all, and we'll see
Good night.
Good night.
you on March 10th.
All right.
Night.